satellite communications a little bit. Just like I say, it's not quite as exciting as some of the other things. What we have here this year, I can tell you I've learned a lot more in the last 3 or 4 years about this business than I did the first 45, because things move at a very quick pace. A lot of very exciting things happening. I'm going to talk about some new satellites, some of the new mobile applications, the coverage that we have now, broadband worldwide, some new technological developments, and about some new K-band satellites. For a long time, the legacy satellites were running just about 1 gigabit to 2 gigabits worth of traffic as you get through a satellite. It doesn't cost a lot more to launch a satellite that has a lot more capacity, and the satellites we're operating now, the new ones, run up to 25 gigabits. What's really exciting now is the newer satellites that are coming out. What makes it exciting is that for most of my career, or at least a good part of it, we've sort of battled the fiber guys who provide fiber in the ground, and we were as competitive with satellite. These new satellites going up to 100 gigabits being launched next year and the year after that, we can get the cost of providing T1 directly to a T1 or a broadband service to any location on the globe without having a local loop, a local carrier, at a cost that's very competitive with local loops and with fiber. So that's pretty exciting for a guy like me who has to battle that. So the next 50 years are going to be a lot easier for us. Some of the applications, and one of the reasons I have this up here is it's sort of self-serving. As you know, there's $7.2 billion in stimulus for providing rural broadband. So in case you didn't know about that money, it's out there. One of the things that's a little disconcerting to me and should be to this audience is that satellite is not a very favored way of providing that service, because you don't have to dig 50 miles of ditches to put in, like you do with fiber, make a lot more jobs than satellite. But satellite actually is a lot more efficient, especially with these newer satellites. But we can provide broadband service any place in the world, any place in the United States, for as low as $20 a month, depending on the details of how it works. So I hope that this group would take, whoever here from Washington gets involved with that, we'll start taking a look more at satellite applications for this endeavor. What's also happened in the last year or two is that we now have broadband coverage over the whole world, including the shipping lanes. There's about 50,000 ships looking for broadband coverage. Up to now, we've had relatively narrowband, expensive coverage with Inmarsat and other applications. Now we can actually put small VSATs on ships and give very good broadband through all the shipping lanes on aircraft and make it very competitive. It's a challenge because as the ships go between different areas of the world, the antennas on the ships have to switch between satellites. We have to shift frequencies, and as we also have to worry about what the licensing arrangements are as we go across the oceans. So it's a very complex, but it's very doable. It's all in automatic. We've had a pilot program running from the U.S. all the way through to Asia, completely untouched by human hands, and we're able to provide broadband service at a fraction of the cost that's been there before. And this is relatively new because of the coverages now that we have over the oceans. Next generation of systems we're talking about, we can cover that are actually in operation now. We do aircraft, trains, even handhelds now direct from satellite. And our forces in the field can do SATCOM on the move. We can give broadband service into vehicles going up to 60, 70 kilometers an hour, go under a bridge or get shielded with instantaneous reacquisition. At sea, we can provide services on the high seas. When we get in port, we can switch to WiMAX, we can switch to cellular. So very exciting for the 50,000 ships that are out there that need broadband services. So this is all relatively new type of stuff. Next thing is in the cellular arena, we've developed a system which is going into service in Alaska in 200 villages that allows us to provide GSM and data services at a fraction of the cost that before, using a single switch at Anchorage, providing service to a media gateway that allows switching locally, does not require a connection to the switch, but for the voice traffic, only for the control traffic. So it's very efficient cost-wise. Also, it gives you much better quality of service. And this is a big deal now, because if we can do this in developing countries, the next generation of cellular is going to have to go into smaller locations, as little as 50 to 100 subscribers, and be able to do it efficiently and be able to make some money doing it. And this is it's a new development, and it's something that we feel is going to be a great growth area for the satellite business going forward. A couple of recent enhancements in satellite communications. One is carrier-to-carrier. This allows an earth station or a network or a link, instead of having to deploy bandwidth on the inbound, on the outbound carriers, we can now take the outbound carrier, we can cancel out that signal on the receivers, and we can reuse the bandwidth. So this effectively doubles the amount of capacity we can run on the same bandwidth. This is something that's been in the works for a while, but just recently it's now in use, and it's being used extensively for broadband networks. So when you can go ahead and double the capacity and in the same band, what that does is, of course, lowers the price and knocks it in hand. Another one is adaptive coding. This is really a requirement for the new Ka-band satellites. As you probably know, Ka-band under severe weather conditions has lots of fade. This adaptive coding allows a system to stay in operation even under severe fades by adapting the amount of what type of coding you use using the same bandwidth, and give you a 10 dB additional margin on all of the links. Without some kind of adaptive coding, these new Ka-band type of systems require an awful lot of margin and make them not as cost effective. So the adaptive coding on DVB-S2 adaptive coding is just coming into service. There are a couple of people that have it. It's relatively new within the last couple of months, but it's a sort of a detail, but it's very significant, because we're talking about Ka-band satellites now for the government, for the military, and to provide the next generation of broadband services that we're talking about. Last thing, I was screwing around with my PowerPoint and I came up with this thing here. This tries to bring together all the media. What's happening is there's really a revolution in media and just about every other telecommunications. And what's happening out there is that the IP allows us to pretty much do a lot of different things using the same platform. We've built now a broadcast center recently finished, which provides media to direct to home, the media on demand for handhelds, provides service into cable systems and on the internet. And I think what's going to happen, is happening already, I'm sure some of you are using some of the services on internet, a robust internet, which gives you access to thousands and thousands of programs and movies and any other kind of entertainment, sporting events, is in the works. It's happening now. You can do interactive with, we run a service called Center Ice, where you can change camera locations. You can look at any, you can zero in on any one of the players, get statistics. You can go to the archives and get all the games. You can watch any game you want, completely interactive. That's really going to be the future of media, the direct-to-home service by satellite and cable. It's going to be there, but I think the majority of use is going to be, everything is going to be on demand. You're going to be able to request service and request your individual program when you want it, where you want it. It's something that's going to happen. It's going to take a little while longer, but it's going to be there with a robust internet. And satellite is going to play a big part of that with these newer satellites. So I want to thank you for